could spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach everyone? There'd be no wars.
Okay. All right. Made it home. Y'all. Hi and hello friends, welcome back to Sweet Smith Home. Today's video is going to be a part of our fertility journey, journey to baby number 3. I'll put it in a playlist, and then I'll link that playlist down below. But hello and welcome. This video, as you can tell by the title, is going to be all about fertility testing. So just kind of the next steps. So really, if you're someone who's like trying to figure out what are the next steps, or you're like already on that journey but want a little bit more information, that's what this video is. Or literally, if you're just like super curious and you're like, what is it that you're doing? That's here. If you do not want to hear those details, please exit out of the video now. But if this is something you want to follow along with, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you hit that like button. That helps my videos out so much. And let's get started. I'm gonna actually take off my seatbelt because I'm not moving anywhere. Okay. So, little backstory for people who are new. I'm gonna try to make this not a super long video. But for those that are new or maybe just hopping on here or have like stumbled across this page, me and my husband are struggling with secondary infertility. So we have 2 pretty young children. They're only 3 and 4 years old. However, I wanted 4 kids in 4 years, so we actually started trying immediately after my son was born, in the sense that we never prevented another baby. Actually, we did for like 5 months. And I thought that it would take about 4 months to get pregnant. That's kind of what it took for both of my other 2 children. Didn't really have to try very hard, just didn't prevent and went about our lives, and then I'd be pregnant in a few months. So that's what I expected to happen. That did not happen. For a lot of reasons, we never went through any testing. After about a year and a half, I did get pregnant. So I do have proven fertility, meaning it is possible for me to get pregnant. I got pregnant after a year and a half of trying. It had been 19 months exactly. And then I went in for my 8-week ultrasound, and there was no heartbeat. The baby was measuring 6 weeks along. My body did not want to miscarry. It was very rough trying to get my body to finish the miscarriage because my baby was not alive. And it ended up having a D&C. It has now been a year and a half since that D&C, and I am still not pregnant. And again, we never prevented. We haven't been able to get pregnant so far. But I'm finally at a point where we have decided to move forward with fertility testing because we want to know if there's anything that we can do, because we do want more children. So, my first piece of advice is, after a year of no prevention, if you are not pregnant and you are wanting to be, go and talk to your doctor. Either go to your OB or skip the OB altogether and go straight to a specialist. The biggest mistake is it took me so long to go see a specialist, and then my specialist specifically where I'm at is just really good, and he was booking out months in advance. I had to wait 3.5 months for my new patient appointment. So definitely, if it has been a year and you have not used any like sort of birth control or anything, and you have a consistent sex life, then make sure you go and talk to someone like immediately and advocate for yourself, because you are the one who's wanting this baby. A doctor, they're going to want to help you, but they're not going to feel rushed. They're not going to feel as urgent, as you will. So that's my first piece of advice. Something I wish I would have done sooner is talk to a specialist, but it is what it is. So when you reach out to your specialist, or again, this is my story, but I feel like a lot of it will be very universal, but everyone is different, and everyone's body is different, and every doctor is different, yada, yada, yada. Make sure you note that asterisk right there. So for me, while we were waiting for my specialist appointment, we decided to go see a midwife to just talk about fertility, and let her know, hey, we're gonna go see the specialist. What can we do while we're waiting for this appointment? Because the appointment again was 3.5 months away. And what they did was really awesome. They decided to take the first step, and she put in the order for dialysis semen analysis. So for my husband, we decided that was something super easy that we could get checked out, and we just did it through like a lab. They gave us like the cup and the instructions, and we didn't even have to call ahead of time. Drove it right to the lab, handed it off, and that was that. His sample came back perfect. So that was good in the sense that we were able to kind of cross him off the list. We were able to walk into my specialist appointment already knowing like that the microscope was going to be on me. Obviously for women, we're just a little bit more complicated, right? So that helped. That is another piece of advice. Whatever you can do before seeing the specialist, go ahead and do it, because it was really nice to kind of already have some knowledge when I went to talk to my specialist. And I think she appreciated being able to see like Dallas's information, like his health chart and the sample analysis and all of that stuff, and be like, great, we don't need to worry about this. Let's just focus on Brittany, myself, and that kind of sped things up, honestly, for us. So for women, or for myself, they wanted to do 3 tests. Now, another disclaimer, I have no red flags in the sense of outwardly appearance. I have an extremely normal 28-day cycle. I have tested, I've gotten positive OPKs right around the right time. So there is no giant red flag. You know what I mean? Like, if you are someone who has very, very irregular cycles, or once you start trying to track ovulation, you realize you're never finding that positive, you know, you're never getting a positive ovulation, then I say go even faster. Because there are no red flags, because there was no like irregular cycles or anything like that, we just had no reason to think anything would be wrong. So they wanted to do a few things, look a little closer. They did a full panel blood work. They tested for all the things. I had to go on a very specific day in my cycle to get all the blood work done, and they like estrogen and progesterone and all these hormone things. They took like 8 vials of blood. Like, it was just a lot. But again, I did that in a lab. I did that separate from their facility. I just went to a nearby lab, got all that stuff done. It was really easy. Did not take very long, and honestly it was cool because I got the results as the doctor was getting them. So even though half of them I didn't understand anything, they were still like populating in my portal of like what everything was. The only thing that we found out through the blood work is that I am no longer immune to the German measles, even though I got that vaccine when I was like a newborn or a baby or something like that. So nothing to even do with fertility. The second thing that they decided to do was an ultrasound. It was a vaginal ultrasound. They looked at like my uterus and my ovaries. They looked at like the follicles that my ovaries were producing, which are house the mature eggs and stuff to be released. Did all of that. Again, nothing wrong, right? So they didn't see any kind of cysts. They didn't see any red flags. I was producing enough follicles, all that. Then the third and the final test was called an HSG procedure. I don't know what it stands for. All I know is that they pushed dye through my fallopian tubes. So this was a lot more intense than I was expecting. Like, I had to go actually to a legit surgery center, pretty much be prepped for surgery. They only used local anesthesia, so I wasn't like out or anything like that. I was very much aware of everything that was happening. So that is a little bit nerve-wracking. I had to take ibuprofen beforehand for like pain, which I'm so glad, because it was still pretty painful. On my scale of like 1 to 10, it was like a 6 or 7. It was definitely painful, but very quick, and it was over with pretty quickly. But I had an x-ray over me so I could like see the x-rays. I was like propped up. They pushed the dye through so much pressure, and it didn't want to go through at first, so we had to put a little bit more pressure, and that's when it really, like, that pain really peaked and felt like extremely intense cramping, like more than I experience in my cycle. Ultimately though, what you're looking at is they can see the dye like fills your uterus, so they can look at the shape of your uterus and see if it's a normal shape or an abnormal shape or anything like that, and then they're checking that your fallopian tubes are clear. The dye ended up going through my fallopian tubes, so there was no blockage, but I did need a little bit, he said he did need to put a little bit extra pressure, like if the dye didn't really want to go through. And what that became, that I learned afterwards, was a tubal flushing. So pretty much they flushed out my fallopian tubes with this dye, and that alone can increase your chances of becoming pregnant because it clears out your fallopian tubes of any gunk or partial blockages, things like that. So that's where we're at. Kind of to summarize, if it is taking you longer than a year to get pregnant, definitely speak to your OB, your midwife, or go straight to the specialist. Make sure you have your husband, spouse, significant other tested as well. It's super easy, and it will either immediately kind of take them out of the picture, or you can hone in on if that is a part of your infertility journey. Then the second is, again, you'll most likely do 3 things, which are blood work, it is an ultrasound, and the HSG, or tubal flushing is what it's called. So pretty much I think that's pretty universal of procedures that are done for the testing. This is just to test. For us, in our journey, everything came back normal. Of course, right? We don't have any red flags. There was nothing in all of that testing that came back irregular. There should be no reason that we cannot get pregnant. They do not know why it is taking us over a year and a half, twice, to get pregnant. So that's where we are. I'm really excited about our next steps. That will be in a different video where I can kind of talk about some infertility treatments. IVF is not on our table, and it wasn't suggested to us by our specialist. Again, because we have unexplained infertility, it just doesn't seem necessary right now. But some other things that we're going to be doing, are thinking about doing, I will talk about in a later video, probably in a few weeks, maybe for February. So if you want to hear that, just make sure you're subscribed. I only post 1 video a week, so just in a few weeks you'll probably see the infertility treatment video. But right now, at least we're done with the testing. At least we know there's nothing huge that we have to like overcome. It's unexplained. If you are walking this journey with me, I am so sorry. I really am so sorry. It is super hard to live in this such an intense form of waiting and wanting and trying. Like, my life is lived in 28-day cycles and 28-day increments, and it's been that way for a long time, for 3 years pretty much, except for that 2-month break when I was pregnant. So that's where we're at. Please, if I missed any kind of procedure that you have had done, or not procedure, like a test that you have had done, or that you feel like someone struggling with infertility should ask their doctor about, make sure to leave that in the comments below. Again, this was just my journey, and what we did. I feel like it is fairly universal, but I could be completely wrong. I'm new to this too. If you want to leave a comment below about your infertility journey, just know that I will be praying for you. It is so hard, but I do have a lot of hope for 2022, and that's kind of what I have to keep holding on to, is that hope. And you know, I have a plan now. Now that I've gone through this testing, now that I kind of have answers, even though we didn't really get an answer except for everything looks fine, we do have a plan, and so that's been kind of nice too, and I feel like a lot more peace about that, that I know kind of how the next year is going to unfold. So that's all for today, guys. That's all I can muster, but I hope that you guys like this video. Again, thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.